evening, ladies, gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise, for yet another great Sunday evening of racing. Some might say there should be something more interesting on the telly, but I definitely bet you that there won't be, so do not change channel. We are here for what surely will be an interesting race tonight. 1 hour of Circuit de Catalunya, still on season 1 of the Sunday Championship. After a almost criminally interesting race last time out at Donnington, we are back with what should be even better and would probably raise some eyebrows in the FBI or whatever they're called wherever you live, as this is a track that most drivers know in and out. Not the most difficult of circuits to drive, but somewhat challenging to be really fast at, so let's see how that pans out tonight. If we are somewhat lucky, there's even a track guide laying about in the recording booth. The shed is a little bit messy at the minute, so we have difficulties finding it. Anyways, I'm Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras, as always, Grandpa Chris Hill, who actually did racing last Friday for the first time in over a year. And then you could probably ask how that went. Perfectly fine, some would say. Others would say slightly embarrassing, but it's all up to you to decide. And I actually think that we found the magical track guide. Oh, and it is even the right track. Start-finish straight at Circuit de Catalunya. Long straight. We surely will be seeing overtakes coming into turn 1 this evening. But do remember, going to the inside of turn 1 will leave you hanging on the outside for turn 2, so a lot of switchbacks would be expected around here. Turn 3, the long right-hander. Different lines we have seen in the past couple of seasons, but staying near the apex early on, then letting the car flow out nearing the end, full throttle as early as possible, of course. Turn 4, braking just about under the bridge. It does look sharper than it is. It opens up and, well, it sort of gets a little bit less tight at the exit of the corner before entering turn 5, where we start going a little bit downhill again. Hairpin-ish corner, of course. Full throttle once again through turn 6, the kink. Or let's call this one turn 6 and 7, before we go back uphill again. Difficult place in terms of track limits. This is one of the places where we could expect to see them being called this evening. And of course, the fast right-hander leading onto the back straight. Another area where you gain a lot by risking it, but going too safe, you lose all the time. Risking it too much, and you will lose it again with the track limits and the runoff area. The old iteration of the, new, that became old iteration of the Emperor corner. Double left-hander, that would be very tight, the first one, before it opens up a little bit in the second one. Hard to stay side by side, but the right-hander here, we have seen cars attempt overtakes before coming into one of the worst places in motor racing, this right-hander to finish off the lap. We are very pleased that they don't do this in Formula 1 anymore, because it is so slow, and be very careful on those sausage curbs or sleeping policemen or baguettes or whatever you call them wherever you are. Full throttle through the final right-hander, of course, as you come in with so little speed, and we are back onto the start-finish straight. And that was one mighty lap of Circuit de Catalunya. We just take another one if we saw one, please. No. We decide to stop there. The pit lane entry around here is not that dangerous in terms of pulling off from the racing line. You will take the penultimate corner with a little bit less speed and pull in, but then you have the barriers very close to you when you come through. We do see the drivers from time to time touch that barrier between the pit lane and the actual racing track, as they try to optimize speed when coming into the pits. Let's see tonight if anyone does a little bit of wall banging around there and visits Mr. Barrier at the worst possible time. Or, well, some would say the best is you can just immediately repair the damage, but that will give you some extra pit stop time. The calendar for the Sunday evening, shall we say, Sunday night series, season 1 we're still at. Currently, it's Barcelona, the 60-minute race, which means mandatory tire stop, I believe. And then for the next round, the mighty Kyalami with the 75-minute race, a format that we love so dearly around here, especially on a track like Kyalami, where surely there'll be interesting pit stop strategies evolving in that one. And that will also be on Star Wars Day, so do remember that. You are excused for not watching the stream if you're watching Star Wars that evening. Before we are finishing off the championship at Circuit of the Americas at COTA, everything is bigger in Texas, they say, and even the final this season will be there. That surely will be a great one. 1 hour of racing when we get there. As we are getting closer and closer to qualifying, 30 minutes of qualifying where the drivers will try and set the best possible lap times to get themselves as far up the grid as possible. The Tuesday night championship, the GT3, the usual GT3 season. We have the sprint series. We're on the 9th season. We have just finished Mount Panorama last time out, and what a race that was. Definitely worth going back watching on the YouTube channel. Next time out, it will be Zandvoort in the Tuesday night series. A lot of Dutch drivers having their home field advantage there. Still old Zandvoort, not with the banking so, but definitely a difficult track to drive. You have to manage both the tight corners, the very few and sparse overtaking opportunities, and of course the tire heat at Zandvoort. We don't expect anyone to be overly stressed about that, as they do have to come in for a mandatory tire change, but tire heat are definitely something to look out for the drivers when we go to Zandvoort on the 6th of May. Before that championship rounds off or finishes out at Valencia on the 20th of May with our lovely 75-minute races. Valencia will definitely be a track where track limits will be galore, and we'll see some probably see some drive-through penalties once we get there for track cuts, as it is so incredibly easy to extend the track around there. They have bug fixed a little bit since release, but it used to be super horrendous around there. Nevertheless, tonight's event at Circuit de Catalunya, one of the few times the GT3 drivers actually stand a chance of winning if your name is not Michael Thomas, as Michael is not participating in this one, giving the rest of the field a bloody good chance of getting a result, as we are live with pictures from qualifying. Form boss exiting the pit lane, Manthey EMA car, the 91 Porsche. One of 2 Porsches this evening of racing. We even have the very rare Audi, we should say, and a lone Mercedes. But Form boss out on track, not the first one to leave the pit lane, though. I believe that would have been Nick Vargas who lead the train on the outlaps. Blue markers on the minimap means invalid lap times. Red marker are the car we are following, and yellow would be yellow flags. White would be slow-moving cars, and grey-ish colors will be just cars out there driving on a probably a fast lap. Even though I don't believe the 69 have started fast lap yet, even though he does have the white marking or the grayed out marking, which is interesting. Little on board in the bottom right hand side with Nick Vargas and the Mode 11 car, the Triple 11. I believe they did rather well in the 2.4 race that just passed, finishing second with Bas van Melis. I believe that Nick Vargas would really have carried that team in that race. Sorry, Bas. I'm just kidding. Of course, we know Bas is a fast driver. Both of them pros in the Tuesday evening championship. A championship that Bas have came out and been public about being fully focused on, so that is surely something that we're looking forward to when we go to Zandvoort, a track that I also think that Bas is quite fast at usually. But enough about a driver that's not here. It's Nick Vargas it's all about, who have started his first flying lap as he comes through turn 3. Remember, they do have tire warmers in the pit, so I do think that he does have tires that could go for a fully flying lap at the minute. And that's definitely what he is trying when we go to the LMU Championship that's running on every other Wednesday. There will be no tire warmer, so unlikely anyone will go to an immediate flying lap after coming out of the pits once we get there, if we ever get there on the channel here. But let's wait and see about that. Vargas through Sector 2, coming into the heavy braking zone at the end of the back straight. into the Emperor corner and taking just enough curb. And actually gets it rotated quite nicely there. That's so difficult getting that perfect every time, but looks like Vargas at least is off to a good start with the rotation through the hairpin. Into the final sector, as we can see, he's probably going to take a little bit of the sausage curbs, at least this final one. No, he doesn't. He actually chooses to stay off them. As I say that, he took the yellow one on the exit, but chooses to stay off them to get the little bit of extra speed over making the track shorter. We are definitely going to see a few drivers do that differently this evening, especially in qualifying, where you only risk of losing your lap. Of course, in the race, if you mount those sausages too hard, the car will spin out, at least go into some sort of oversteer, understeer-ish moment. As we go around, Brian Scheckerman in the other of the 911 Porsches. He's actually running the 911 number. The other one would be the 91. Coming around in the bright orange car. Black markings on that, or black trim we should say. To the bottom of the hill before climbing up. It is quite a lot steeper than it looks on the pictures. I think that actually illustrated quite nicely that over the hill he went. And back down the back straight. Coming into the heavy braking zone once again, the Emperor corner. On the brakes, it looked like a little bit early, maybe just being safe and they're getting it shot in early on. Nicely through. We do know the Porsche are very good on rotation. Comes along, just misses the gravel trap. Little bit of a slide there, but you don't lose too much coming out of that. Clips the inside sausage as he goes flying across and finishes his first flying lap. Enough for 5th initially for Scheckerman. Looks like he's off to another flying lap immediately. No time to waste for him. I wonder how many laps he's fueled for. That's something that drivers do differently. New fastest lap from Patrick van der Linden in the Audi. Of all cars, the Audi is back, baby. Looks like it. Anyways, different strategies from the drivers about how much fuel you take in qualifying. Some drivers like to take quite a bit of fuel and just staying out there for the entirety of the session, keeps going on with the laps. Others will go in roughly at the halfway point to get a fresh set of tires, and then will be the first strategy of just going out doing 2 flying laps, fresh tires, and continuously to do that throughout the session. And do that as many times as possible. Very, very different from driver to driver what they choose to do. As Van der Linden could have gotten a little bit of a tow there down the back straight if he got lucky. Rick DeMosh quite quick so far. Goes provisional pole there in the Honda. The unusual suspect seems to be doing well tonight. Both a Honda and an Audi up there on top. We do know the Honda is quite fast usually as well, but it can be tricky to drive. But Rick DeMosh, provisional pole, but still a long time to go here in qualifying. And a lot of fast drivers still out there. Using all of the track available. Raymond Luchin, the 888 car, only car not to have set a lap time yet, but still plenty of time to do so, of course. Sat in 14th position in the 888. Coming up over the hill. He might just be on a banker early on just to get a time on the board. But we'll have to wait and see what the time will be into the Emperor corner. Keeps it tight there, not using all of the available space on the exit. So it does look to be somewhat of a saving lap for Raymond Luchin. To the very top of the track where the rallycross circuit also is. Not that we are going to be using that tonight. And if someone does, I think they would have gone on to a little bit of a detour, to be perfectly honest. That is very close to invalid over the penultimate corner there, and that will give a double invalid both the lap you're on and the next one, but it was clean enough. 10th position for Luchin and fastest of the AIM cars currently. about 1.4 seconds away from provisional pole holder of Des Moines. Visanello in his 69 Ferrari, the SRT driver he will be. We saw him with his teammate last time out, having some intense battling at Donnington. I wonder if we'll see the same tonight. As he goes flying in big speed, it looks like, using all of the available track there on the exit. Des Moines into the pits for the first time to take fresh tires. I think we'll see a wave of drivers do that shortly. Vianello through the first part of the Emperor corner, second one. Good on the front, not hooking the very inside line, but did seem to get there by the end of the long right-hander there at the end of the lap, almost into the final sector we go. Slow circuit using all of the track available, just clipping that inside curb, not getting anything negative out of that. Full throttle and up to the line he will go, and across he went. No improvements this time out, but he's still going for another shot. With 10 minutes and 30 seconds roughly remaining. Cavaletto, the other SRT driver, I believe, sim racing team. Hashtag enter name here. Cavaletto in the 94 car, currently sat in 9th. Closer to the AIM drivers than the rest of the pro field, but doesn't need too much to catch up. As he flies around the track. Down to the downhill, that looked a little bit tight as he didn't get the car all the way out to the right before turning in there to the third to last corner. And over the line he goes, does improve and puts himself in the mix of the pro cars up into 8th position. Beats out Schegerman on that lap. Kyalami in the 777 Ferrari. That will be somewhat easy to recognize with the very nicely bright colors and the orange trim. With the purple rims also. Currently improving that C across the line. He goes up to 10th position to snatch the provisional pole in the AIM class away from Luchin. Continues to go, of course. 9 minutes to go. All drivers out on track. Tim Boss, or From Boss, he is actually named in the 91-man Thai EMA. Very strong racing car. Also the choice of the Iron Dames this season in all competitions, or at least all GT3 competitions. Just a small fun fact. I don't know if it was that funny, but interesting nevertheless. Some might say I'm not a funny man. Others might say something opposite, at least the voices in my head say so. Mary comes into the pits, but Boss looks very strong on this flying lap. Shows the rest of the AIM field who is Boss in this one. 8th overall and lead of the AIM class, and puts himself in the mix with the pro drivers also. Very strong lap there from Boss. Do remember, people out in the YouTube chat, that put in your favorite drivers, and we'll try and get them on the screen for a little bit. As Dario Vianello comes around the final sector of the track. Only needs the tricky slow part to finish this one. 7.5 minutes remain on the clock as Vianello comes across the final braking zone, full throttle from here on out. Through the final corner he goes, and let's see, across the line. Improves, but not enough to beat out anyone for position. But look at that, how close it is. Just a few thousandths of a second for Vianello to challenge Alderman for that 6th position. Vianello is definitely trying once again to try and push out those last few thousandths of a second. in the very nice numbered car, but that's too wide. And he chooses to park it, go to the pits, take a little bit of fuel and fresh tires. A driver we haven't been speaking of so far this evening, Sander Vale, the other Mode 11 car. Oh well, yeah, well, it is just the other Mode 11 car in this championship at least. Out on a flying lap. Goes onto the back straight in the 808. Hell yeah, come and get some, get some. Into the Emperor corner he goes, all the way out to the yellow sausage. I think if you go beyond that yellow sausage, it will be an invalid lap time. Using the AstroTurf to his advantage, opening up the corner. Goes wide. Does he get it all the way to the right? It looks like he got it at least over to the sort of the curbing through the final corner, fully committed on the front. We have seen drivers not getting the angle correctly and going out of bounds there. Cross the line up into second in AM class. Running low on fuel, it looks like, as he goes back to the pits. Jonathan Crossland in the lone AMR car, one of my favorite all-time cars to drive. Did get a little bit tricky later on as we got very experimental with setups in that car. I hold it very, very close to my heart. As he comes across the line, he goes and improves a little bit and gets himself closer to Lucian, nearing the back of the field. Jonathan Crossland, he still have opportunities to improve. 5 minutes to go in qualifying. So enough for 3 full flying laps. Patrick van der Linden up into second position in the Audi. Got very close on that time. Brian Schickerman comes across the line to maintain 8th position. They are going into the pits now, and that will be to do one final very, very low fuel push for qualifying results. They do still have time to come back out and try to improve. Rick Des Moines across the line improves his current best and extends the lead for pole. Puts himself about 2.7 tenths. I'll round it off, it'll be 2.8 tenths ahead of Patrick van der Linden. Vargas on a flying lap. Through turn number 4 he goes, as you can see it opens up here, and that's why you sort of get to the apex early and that the car flow out of the corner. As he comes using the tracker on the downhill section. Down to the bottom of the hill. Difficult part to keep it in bounds. You can risk so much through there, but big consequences lap time wise if you mess it up. If it gets invalid here through the top of the hill, turn 9, I believe that would usually be called, or something like that, maybe 8. Emperor corner, we go for him. Doesn't use all of the entry curb. Goes to the limits of the track. Running back up the hill before he goes down through the slow section in turn 3. Again, could have used a little bit more AstroTurf there, Nick Vargas. He is leaving a very, very tiny bit of time on the table by not taking full advantage of the track everywhere. But let's see what happens as he comes around the final corner and up to the line he goes. Nick Vargas does not improve his lap time this time around, but still 2 more shots at it if he can keep it on track and if he has fuel in the car for it as well. Riding on the hood of the 1111 we did for a brief moment there through the final sector on the start-finish straight. Roland Ottelman in the lone Aston Martin. Good performances we have seen from him, at least at Donnington. Let's see what he can do today at Circuit de Catalunya. Remember, Donnington was a very, very wet affair, like usually in the Great Britain. Not saying anything about the weather, but whoa, Ottelman goes for a little bit of a spin there. And comes into the pit. Maybe it was just show off for pit lane practice Who knows? If he's super quick, he could potentially go out again, but I don't think he would actually make it around, considering how long the pit lane. Oh, yeah, they actually parked nearing the exit. He could potentially do so, but not anymore. I think it's too late now. Vianello in the 69 Ferrari, currently set in 5th position. Very tight between himself and Caesar in 6th place. Needs just under 10th to challenge Mary for 4th position. Vargas are improving at this point. Just a few final corners to go. Can he keep momentum? Final corner, hard on the throttle. Let's see as he does the run down to the line. Comes earlier than you think around this track. The 2 lines there. He does improve up into 2nd, but only just enough to squeeze into 2nd place. Still enough time to do another lap for Nick Vargas. Puts himself up there on the board. Sean Caesar and the lone McLaren this time out. Oh, there's actually 2 McLarens. There's also Mary. I forgot he was in a McLaren as well. But Caesar in the 240 McLaren, the white, black, and red McLaren. Very fun car to drive. It does feel very, very sharp when you're driving it, but can still get a little bit loose underneath you, but not unsavable. Not something that loses you that much time if it gets loose underneath you. That's just sort of how the car drives and needs to be driven. Through the penultimate corner, he chooses to do pit lane practice, assuming that he was not improving. Patrick van der Linden, P3 in the Audi so far. Timer have run out, so they can finish the lap that they are on at the minute. Coming down to the end of the back straight. Let's see, can Patrick van der Linden challenge Vargas and De Moyne for 1st and 2nd, or challenge the front row, we should say, or will he be set there in 3rd? Remember, if Nick Vargas also out there on track, next car to finish his lap, as Patrick van der Linden bails out on the lap, not improving. It looks like Nick Vargas across the line does improve and makes it a little bit tighter for pole position. Cavaletto in the other SRT car, one of the SRT cars, final man, he will be to get a lap time on the board. Once he gets there. Just 1 sector to go now for Cavaletto. Through the long right-hander. The tricky slow speed section to go. Mary have put his lap time in, finishing 4th unless Cavaletto and Sander Vale can do something about that. Vale will not assist on an invalid lap time, so Cavaletto last man to have a chance to improve. Does he do it across the line? Yeah, he does. Up to 9th there for Cavaletto at the end. Yes, it's close enough to see so that I'm using that name. Definitely how that's supposed to be pronounced, but as always, this is where you all have to imagine that we had some commercials we could run, and we'll be right back just about a formation lap start, I assume. As we are back, the drivers are doing their final preparations for the race. Just waiting anxiously on the grid to get the command to go on their formation lap. Most of the cars have dropped from the jacks. I think that was the last one we saw dropping there, the Porsche. Just trying to figure out strategies and stuff like that. Oh, the McLaren came as well. Just trying to figure out the correct strategy at this point. I do believe that we'll see the pit lane being very, very busy when we reach the halfway point of the race. As that would be optimum strategy. Weather looks very good for racing. Slightly overcast but sunny. 26 degrees virtual temperature. Ambient temperature on the virtual Spain. Nice and sunny day as all of the virtual supporters wave their very brightly colored flags. We don't know exactly who they're cheering for, but I assume the drivers that are racing. Or maybe they're just happy to be there and like to wave stuff in the air. Who knows, we should ask them someday. The slowest we're likely seeing the cars move around the track all day. We're looking at the minute. Don't expect them to be going this slowly or driving this neatly once the lights go out and we start racing. Des Moines starts on pole with Nick Vargas next to him. Behind them, we'll see Patrick van der Linden and Mary. Before Vianello and Caesar lines up on the third row of the grid. Alderman and Scheckerman right behind them as Calvaletto and Boss lines up on the fifth row. Boss being the pole sitter of the AM class. Vale and Lucian on the sixth row, and on the seventh and final row of the grid we have Kyalami and Crossland. Crossland in the lone Mercedes. Interesting to see how that car does over the course of this race. Other cars that are one-off would be Honda, Aston Martin, surprisingly only one Aston Martin, and the Audi, of course, of Van der Linden. I do like when people chooses these little bit more unique cars or lesser chosen cars. That makes quite an interesting grid compared to the usual Ferrari dominance and Ford Mustang that have proven to be rather popular, at least in the Tuesday league that we are running. But no Mustangs this evening. All European and one Japanese car. Well, depending on how you see Europe. In these days, there'll be some non-EU cars, of course, but still European of heart. Not to get further into that. Other continent and car brands are available. As the cars have started going into a double file as we are rounding the final sector. I wonder if Vargas knows that he have to move up next to Des Moines. Or if he's just planning on hanging back. Oh, there he came. One more corner of formation lap to go for all the cars at this point. Camera on the front, camera on the back. Let's see what happens as we come down the start-finish straight. And ladies and gentlemen, we are shortly about to be racing. Looks very stable, the start so far. Des Moines off to a good start. Looks like that Van der Linden comes up to challenge for second and goes to the inside of Vargas. He does have position at this point, coming into T1, but backs out of it smartly. 3-4 wide-ish further down the field. That's I think the Porsche of Cavaletto, one of the cars in that scrum for position next to Alderman. It looked like around turn 3. Good start from the Mercedes, it looks like, of Crossland. He have moved up a few positions and gets another one almost free there, as we saw a car running a little bit deep into turn 3. But Rick Des Moines takes the start and leads Nick Vargas initially with Van der Linden right behind further down the field. Full NASCAR formation. Very good start from Jonathan Crossland. who have moved himself all the way up to 9th, starting from 14th on the grid. Good start there from the Mercedes driver. He is being chased by a lot of cars behind that wants to go past him, but not sure that it'll be that easy. Directly ahead of Buzz in the that's Checkerman in the orange Porsche. Buzz is in the black one. But Checkerman goes through a little bit of contact there with the Ferrari of Calvaletto, as Calvaletto just forces his way through. And Jonathan Crossland drops to 11th, but strong first couple of corners there from the Mercedes driver. As we do see, that would be Buzz coming across the one of the corners there in the final sector, some of the slower corners. All the men under severe pressure from Checkerman behind. Checkerman tucked into the slipstream. Let's see what he can do. This generation of Porsche are quite a bit better than the older one. Ooh, contact there from behind. That's Checkerman that gets pushed a little bit off track there by Calvaletto. Calvaletto does choose to stay behind and don't take the position. Contact again further back. That's Crossland being contacted there by, I think, Sander Vale, it looked like, who came up and had a little bit of a wang touch on Jonathan Crossland. But again, chooses to stay behind, showing the good sportsmanship and not taking advantage of these sort of minor taps. Kyalami showing himself left, right and center, almost behind Sander Vale, but no way to get through, as Luchin is just lurking there, hoping for a mistake just up ahead, and he's in prime position to take advantage of anything that could happen ahead of him as they come around the right hand on the top of the hill. Let's just call it turn 18 or turn 8, even though it's probably 9. Let's just call it Chris's corner. That's a bit easier. Through Chris's corner, they went into the Emperor corner. Different lines that we did see Sander Vale using a wider approach and using more track. They're actually gaining him a little bit of time over Kyalami behind, and it puts him into position to apply pressure on Jonathan Crossland and the Mercedes, who chooses to go somewhat defensive there into the penultimate section of corners, we should say. But I think that caught Vale out a bit, as he didn't get a good exit out of that from the rear ring of Kyalami's car. Looking back at Luchin. Down the main straight we go. Into T1. Not really anyone close enough to challenge for possession as we go through T1, 2 and 3. As Kyalami actually got very close to Vale there. Vale must have been a little bit offline. Kyalami with a little bit more speed, but will he have to lift off? Doesn't look like it. He goes to the inside, at least showing himself. Will he try the move? No, he backs out of it, but gets put under pressure from Luchin. But different lines we see between Vale and Kyalami, as Kyalami is immediately right on the back of Vale through 4. And on the downhill run, these 3 Ferraris look very closely matched on pace. The 3 drivers up the hill and into Chris's corner we go. Look at that from behind. Luchin getting a very good run through Chris's corner, and could potentially go for it at the end of the back straight. But will it be enough? Doesn't quite look like it, as Kyalami defends his position and keeps 13th at least for now, as they went around into the final tricky slow speed section again. It does look like that Jonathan Crossland's line is just a bit narrower there through the penultimate section of corners than Sander Vale's, and that's why they it looked like he was defending before. Not that he's not allowed to do that, obviously he can do it if he wants to, but with that distance between them, it didn't look viable. Raymond Luchin on board with him into turn 1. Let's see if we can spot the braking zone. Just about the 100-meter board. Gets a little bit of turning on the cars. He was braking maybe a little bit too early for that, and getting unstable over the curbs, as Luchin drops a little bit behind and leaves Kyalami on pressure to to attack Sander Vale. I wonder if Kyalami can get anything done this time around. You can just see how Vale is trying to be as aggressive as possible, using all of the track coming out of the corners and hard on the front. Not this time though, but downhill we go. Once again for the third time this race. Further up the field, Ottleman under pressure from Cavaletto. And Ottleman also gets a very good run on Boss this time. Could he potentially go for the move into the Emperor corner? Does show himself on the inside, but not quite brave enough on the brakes as immediately pressure comes from behind. Cavaletto tries to stay as close as possible to Ottleman, but have to lift off a little bit there, but gets right back on it. Into the slow speed section. It is possible to get the overtakes done in here, so let's see what happens. Will he try to throw out the anchor? No, not this time out. But stays very close. He will just have to tug into the slipstream down the main straight. Same thing for Ottleman as he's so close up behind Boss. Boss tries to break the slipstream, moves all the way to the right hand side of the track, and everyone follows to try and stay in that slipstream. Ottleman goes for it, shows himself on the inside line. Almost a wheel in the grass. Let's see into turn 1. Is it enough? Though not quite. As we see Cavaletto on the outside line not working out for him that time out. Ottleman now trying to put himself inside there, but carrying a little bit too much speed. I have to back out of it. Into turn 3 we go. Ottleman still with the chance of overtaking Boss in this particular instance, but he's taking the tighter line there. Showing that the Aston Martin does have a little bit of extra to give off if it came to it. But whether or not that Ottleman can actually find a way through, one thing is being slightly quicker, another thing is actually getting that move done. That can be so tricky, especially around Circuit de Catalunya. From the bottom of the hill we go on the run up to Chris's corner. We can see this is where Ottleman got a lot of speed last time, but this time not an as good exit. Runs wide, takes the still foam board, and Cavaletto goes through on the outside into the Emperor corner, but Ottleman tries to throw the anchor in there, does get it through, but the switchback is on there for Cavaletto, and Cavaletto takes possession, moves himself up into 8th, and are now the next man up to try and attack a Boss in 7th. But now Scheckerman also gets into this battle, so it becomes almost a 4-car battle. As Boss have a little bit of a gap, and as we can see just in the background, all the battling is still raging at the back end of the field, where it looks like that Vale actually moves himself past Crossland. But down the front straight we go, Ottleman on the defense, this time Scheckerman on the offense. Scheckerman taking as much slipstream as possible, goes to the outside line into turn 1. Do remember outside T1, becomes inside. Little bit of a touch, but maybe Ottleman just lost it there. Looked close at least, but not enough for Scheckerman to go through. Boss must be clapping his hands, or well, he's probably not. He's probably holding on to the steering wheel, but he does get a little bit of breathing room and puts himself in a situation where he's not under severe pressure from behind for at least the time being. As Ottleman really having to defend from Scheckerman, who's putting all of the pressure on Ottleman at this point. Scheckerman didn't get the best of starts in this race, as we did see him fall a little bit behind this group of cars, but he have caught back up and looks like he's on it. Whoa, Ottleman once again very, very wide through Chris's corner. Into the braking zone we go. As we see the small camera, the 3-car battle for position just behind these guys. It's Crossland, Kyalami and Lucian. Crossland in the Mercedes and Lucian and Kyalami in the Ferraris behind. We just see Vale there coming over the crest. I do think all of the battling there for the final positions in the race are actually losing them quite a bit of time in terms of the cars ahead, as they have to spend so much energy and focus on each other rather than catching up to the rest of the field. But Ottleman and Scheckerman still close together as we come into to T1. Speaking of close together, it looks like there's actually a battle for the lead of the race also. Very, very close between De Moyne and Nick Vargas. As we say that Vargas actually makes the move on De Moyne and takes the lead of the race in the 1111 Ferrari. Wow, that was a timing and a half there from our good camera crew. Nick Vargas takes the lead of the race. Can he pull away from De Moyne, or will De Moyne have it in him? It looks like De Moyne is a little bit out of focus, as he's not really nailing the corners after losing the lead. Maybe he just have to get used to the dirty air, or he had some overheated tires or something like that. Seal tried to catch back up. To Vargas, actually very close, almost bumper to bumper as they come through the final sector into the tricky slow speed corners. De Moyne needs to focus on getting the best possible exit as early on the throttle as possible. Got a little bit on the sausage done that could potentially have lost him a little bit of speed as they come down the front straight. De Moyne trying, but it doesn't look to have the overspeed on the Ferrari to really gain down the main straight this time around. Through turns 1 and 2 before 3. I think, well, he did lose it in 3 last time out. Could have been a little bit of a driving error that cost him the position. Didn't see the initial phases of the battling. But let's see this time out. Can De Moyne get the car stopped and keep pressure on Nick Vargas? Vargas coming directly from a P2 in the 2.4 series on Friday, and now leading the race on Sunday. Good drive there from Vargas, and Jonathan Crossline have to defend there through turns 3, losing a little bit there. That looks like Lucian takes full advantage of that as both Lucian and Kyalami goes through. And Lucian up into 12th with Kyalami remained in 13th. But now Lucian goes wide, which means Kyalami does have the opportunity to drag race into the bottom of the hill, drive through for all the man track limits. That will be as they come running up the hill into Chris's corner, almost side by side. One of them have to back out, but they don't. Side by side through Chris's corner, slight contact, and that's a car that spun and gone off. I think that was Kyalami. I think Lucian is a brightly colored car, but let's know that was Lucian that got spun out there. And then now in 14th position and quite a way behind Crossland and Kyalami in 12th and 13th. Rick De Moyne with a lot of pressure this time on Nick Vargas. Not really close enough to go far into turn 1. It's not a that heavy braking zone, even though that you're coming from top speed. Only on the brakes for about 50 to 70 meters there, but a little bit of slide there from Nick Vargas opens the door for Rick De Moyne. Will it be turn 3 that will become decisive once again? We have seen turn 3 being the prime overtaking zone so far this race. Not quite, but Vargas gets a little bit of slide on. Same does Rick De Moyne. Close together, De Moyne still with the pressure. Vargas having to go defensive into the corner. De Moyne tries to do a little bit of a switch back then, getting the better launch, coming to the bottom of the hill, but I don't think he's quite close enough to get it done. Vargas still in control of the race from the front. Huge gaggle further down the field. Who's who in that center? Vale come to the back. Shigerman involved. All the man is there. I think that would be Boss, maybe also, and Vianello in that huge group of cars being that close together. Looks to be led by Vianello with, I think that's Shigerman behind, and then Alderman. Alderman still with the drive-through that he will have to go in and serve. Yes, it is Vianello. No, it's Calvaletto and Shigerman. I thought it was Vianello, but it's of course not. He's about 13 seconds up the road. It's Calvaletto, Shigerman, then Alderman, and Boss and Vale. And that 5-car group of cars. But this time down the front straight, looks like De Moyne have the speed to at least try for it into turn 1. Goes a long way. Let's see if he can do it through turn 1. It becomes an inside, but not quite, as Vargas had that one covered. Alderman goes in to serve his drive-through penalty. Lucian already had his pit stop. And Vargas keeps the lead. Sander Vale showing himself, but I don't think he's quite close enough to really spook anyone by doing so. As Vale are currently set second in the AM class with just Boss ahead of him. So that is for class win of the evening. Meanwhile, Des Moines and Vargas inseparable looks like at the front of the field. They've only been 2-3 car lengths behind them for almost an entire lap at this point. Can see that Des Moines doesn't take as much curve through Chris' corner there. Alderman with a stop go 30 now, which he seems to be serving already. But that would be unlikely, as he just came in for the drive-through, so that I don't know exactly. Maybe he got some track cuts there on the way into the pits or something. Usually you don't get the speeding penalty when you leave the pit lane. So that is strange, but he's still parked there, so I think he might be out of the race. No attack this time out for Des Moines. As Vargas just seems to be that little bit better through the slow final or penultimate corner and getting that throttle on a little bit better than Des Moines. After turn 3, they're still up there. Let's see. With Alderman, he goes out of the pits. And then he got the stop go 30 and then probably just parks and goes directly into the garage. We will assume. Yeah, he pulls over and retires. Unfortunate there for Alderman, which leaves us with 13 cars running on track. Led by Vargas, Des Moines in second, Van der Linden third, a little bit off, but not that far actually. Van der Linden is quite close to the lead battle. Caesar in fourth and Marion fifth, also close together. They are with Vianello, have caught up to the back of those guys. And then the gaggle of Calvareto, Shakerman, Boss and Vale that have opened up a little bit between them, and Kyalami in 11th, Crossland 12th, and Lucian, the only driver to have taken his mandatory pit stop in 13th position. Who's actually not that far ahead of this group of cars. 10 minutes until we expect the pit stop round to begin. Or at least until the optimum time would be to stop. Race have sort of split into 3 separate races. There are the front battle between Vargas, Des Moines and Van der Linden. There's the group of cars behind with Caesar, Marion, Vianello, and then there's a huge group with Cavaleto, Shakerman, Boss, Vale, Kyalami, and then Crossland just behind that group. So those are the 3 groupings of cars at the minute. The peloton, if you could say so, from cycling would be the back group, as that is the largest one. But Nick Vargas opening a little bit. Sander Vale right on the back of Boss into turn 3. Under the bridge, but the long way around rarely works, but tries the cut back to the inside. He will go, but not quite enough speed. Tries it though into the next corner, at least showing himself, but not quite. But I think he spooked Boss a little bit there, as Boss did leave a little bit of room on the inside that didn't hit the apex, so maybe the strategy is working for Sander Vale, just showing himself and that way putting some massive pressure on Boss. As Mary have made a little bit of a mistake and dropped away from the battle for 4th. A bit of a mistake is being mentioned in the back of my my head. Because what's in my head? In my head, Chris Hill, oh, eh, eh. Maybe we shouldn't sing on the channel. Though I don't think that was close enough to be copyrighted though, but you never know. Sander Vale through the slow corners. Not that close to buzz onto the start-finish rate. That is the problem on this track, really. That slowness through the final section there with Mary here. Let's see what happens. Whoa, just gets loose there. And big collision with the barrier. I wonder if he will come in shortly to get that fixed. That was in turn 3. Long way to the pit stop, but he does choose to keep going instead of boxing immediately, as we were speaking of. That Vale have gotten himself all the way up to the back of Buzz. Once again it's turn 3, Vale with the overspeed. Buzz trying to force him to the very, very inside line. Buzz does leave the room there. Vale comes around, a little bit of a tap there as the pass was made. Switchback is on. Buzz does have a little bit of overspeed, tries it on the outside, forces Vale to go narrow, comes in behind. Does he get the better exit speed? Doesn't look like Alderman officially retired now from the race. But that is position taken from for Sander Vale, who now leads the AM class in an overall 9th position in the race. Snatched it away there from Boss himself. But what all that fighting have allowed, guess what? Kyalami right there in the back of this this pack now, in the bright blue, white, purple and orange Ferrari. That's a color combo I never thought I would say. But that is what's going on in the Ferrari. And you know what? I like it. I really dig that. It somehow works. Maybe I would have gone with some different colored rims. But hey ho, it is at least recognizable. Mary comes into the pits this time of asking. So does Boss, it looks like, gets out of traffic and tries the undercut him. He will come out with fresher tires, of course, than the cars that he's battling, so he really needs to be quick when he goes back out on track. But with Boss having gone into the pits that have left a little bit of a gap there between Kyalami and Vale. Maybe smart from Boss as well if he wants to catch up to Vale again to get that pit stop out of the way. So we don't have to focus on defending from Kyalami. Further up the field, Caesar in the McLaren and Vianello in the Ferrari. Black versus white colors of the car, of course. Vianello in the 69 Ferrari and Caesar in the 240 McLaren. Through Chris's corner into the Emperor corner we go. Just see how it closes up there. It is the Constantina effect when we see that, as that is a very, very slow corner. But up the back hill we go. And into the slow section once again. Two cars out. Alderman was one of them, of course, and I think Mary was. No, Mary's still going. It's Boss that have retired from the race. Boss, who was in a battle. Maybe he came into the pits and either he got a penalty coming out, maybe, or maybe he came into the pits because he had something that was bothering him at home. Maybe private things. Yeah, that sometimes gets you a DSQ doing so. Happened to me once at COTA actually. Someone have took out the pit board and I forgot where it was, so I was just speeding at full speed in the pit lane until I realized I'm probably within the pit zone now. And then got DSQ'd on exit, which was a bit unfortunate for that race for me. But a long time ago. Vianello still on the hunt for position on Caesar and 4th. Very unfortunate for Boss, though. He was in a good battle that we would have liked to see to the end. But 12 cars still remaining and the battle groups are still somewhat intact. Emperor corner once again, but no real no real threat for Caesar as of yet from Vianello. He is close, but not quite close enough to get the moves done. Such a frustrating place to be in, and it can be so difficult just to close up that final bit of gap, especially when you're so equally paced as these two drivers seem to be. Vianello comes into the pits, tries the undercut. Maybe that's wise enough. Trying to get that done and maybe overtaking on strategy. I think that was the Audi that came into the pits as well. Back to the front battle between Nick Vargas and Rick Demoyne. They have caught up. That's traffic. That would be Scheckerman in the Porsche that they will have to negotiate. Scheckerman just pulls over and lets them go through. So no real issues there for the two race leaders. So Scheckerman gets to enjoy the lead battle for a little bit. And if he potentially could stay with them, he could maybe get a little bit of a slipstream from the two leading cars. But the pit round have started somewhat early though, but the undercuts are on cross lane. Vianello and Van der Linden have come into the pits. This could actually be very good for Van der Linden getting an undercut on these two guys up in front, so he could potentially gain something from doing so. If he can light those tires quickly coming out of the pits, of course. But he will have the advantage of fresher tires, at least for a little bit. I think on strategy, these two drivers, I would probably go one more lap if I was Nick Vargas. But Rick Demoyne, he could choose to go opposite of what Nick Vargas will be doing from the lead of the race, to try and get it done in the pits. I think that's the call that I would do if I was second, but if I was Nick, I would continue one more lap. Rick Demoyne stays out as well. Both cars opting to go at least to, well, very close to the halfway point. They'll be about 20 seconds off of the halfway point when they will have the opportunity next time to come into the pits. Top 6 yet to pit, which means half of the field have got in. Caesar came in though from provisional third. Or third on track at least, not third on sequence. But Caesar into the pits in the 240 McLaren. Rick Demoyne getting very close. Looks like he does have a little bit of more grip there through turn 3, but had nowhere to go if it had to let off the throttle to avoid running into the back of Vargas. It does look like that Vargas goes wide there. That leaves the door open for Demoyne, but can he get something out of this? Not really though, but he does force Vargas to go very, very defensive and cover off any attacks there. Vargas, even with the mistake, denies Rick Demoyne, but look how close they are. Demoyne will really have to apply the pressure, keep the pressure on through Chris's corner, and then he have an opportunity to get it down into the Emperor corner. So he is definitely all the way on the front, trying to go as early as possible, taking maximum slipstream. Will he throw out the anchor and go for the move? No, he stays behind. Maybe the smarter way to do, as even if you get to the inside there, you have to be so slow to leave the room on the exit for the car that you're trying to overtake. It does look like turn 3 are the preferred overtaking spot in this race so far. And that might truly also be where Nick Vargas seems a little bit weaker than Rick Demoyne. We have seen both of them make mistakes, of course, in the race, but Vargas going into the pick, Demoyne stays out. Now it's hammer time for Rick Demoyne. Or going on to max attack as he is Dutch. I don't know if anyone says that to Max Verstappen, but it sounded way good. But fully, definitely. Now I'm just talking to myself again. But Rick Demoyne definitely giving it everything he can to try and get this done on strategy. Let's see if he comes in at the end of this lap, or if he does choose to stay out a little bit longer. Those fresher tires from Nick Vargas could be very advantageous. We do know the Honda are very rough on the tires usually. So that will be interesting to see if Vargas can get something out of the slightly earlier stop, but perfectly timed on the sequence. Also, when I was expecting Vargas to come in from the lead, because why wouldn't you take the optimum pit stop time when you are leading the race? He does get accompanied by Kyalami in the pits. Not Kyalami, Kyalami in the pits, the Italian driver. One of the Italian drivers. Definitely some of the hardest surnames to pronounce in the world. Those Italians. I think I would. I think I would prefer a Chinese name written in Mandarin, because then you can just decide yourself what they're called. Also, the Polish guys can be difficult, but nevertheless, Rick DeMoine, what will he do? Will he come into the pits this time out, or will he try to stay out one more lap to get the overcut? He does seem to stay out on track. Rick DeMoine goes at least one more lap, hoping that Vargas got out in traffic. Doesn't look like it on the minimap. Seems to be running in clean air, but DeMoine stays out. What does Vale do in the 808? I think he will probably, maybe not. He's coming up to decision point now, but nevertheless, Rick DeMoine stays out. He is leading the race virtually. It's really hard to say, as this will be very close after he comes out of the pits. Vale went in, so it is only race leader Rick DeMoine that we're yet to see on pit road. Not row, but road. Maybe row. You can decide again if you're American. In the pit lane, we are Europeans here, of course. Rick DeMoine, only driver yet to come into the pits. In the mighty Honda, he does have traffic now. If he's lucky, he can get towed down the back straight. He does get a little bit of a tow there, and the Ferrari will probably have to, no, not really that close from the Ferrari, but he will have to give position shortly to Rick DeMoine. I wonder if he will wait until the start-finish straight, also to see if Rick comes into the pits. Oh, definitely lost a little bit of time there as he moves out of the way. What will Rick DeMoine do? I would probably take the pit stop now if I was DeMoine. He does come into the pits. Yes, he does. Flying in there, taking full advantage of the inside, getting the car down to speed before the pit limiter, it looked like. Very close between Schickerman and... is that Kyalami or is it Lucien that he's running that close to? If it's Lucien, then it's not for position, but I don't think it is. DeMoine on the both big and small screen. Now we get Vargas up on the big screen and DeMoine on the small. This is a direct battle for the lead. We know that DeMoine will be stopped here for 30 seconds. So let's see where he will be in relative to Nick Vargas. Nick still have the final sector to go, though I do think DeMoine might actually have done it. With the even though he got held up a little bit by that back marker, but I think that Rick DeMoine, he have done it. Nick Vargas through the final corner, though he does need to start rolling shortly. Vargas can go full throttle. DeMoine will have a little bit of slower time. No, actually, I might have to eat my words, as Nick Vargas will retake the lead. Vargas goes through. Vargas back into the lead, so that back marker might have cost him more than we thought, but those fresher tires from Nick Vargas as well might have given him the advantage and at least a good gap. Does DeMoine come under pressure from Van der Linden, though, is the big question. Here, yeah, he does. Van der Linden overtakes DeMoine as well. Probably the worst possible outcome there from Rick DeMoine. Patrick Van der Linden up into second position there. Good strategy call from Van der Linden, getting that earlier stop in with the Audi. Again with the Honda maybe being a little bit rougher on the tires, that didn't help DeMoine that much, and then the back mark also, but that definitely cost him 6 seconds to the back mark, maybe half a second or something like that, so we can't really complain too much about it. But you know, racing drivers, you never know. On board with the Audi for the first time, let's just have a little bit of a listen to the car. Not that often we get to listen to the Audi anymore. Tricky car to drive, and even trickier to get set up correctly. It does have a tendency to be very loose on the rear. and overcorrecting that, then you'll have a very understeery car, but looks like Van der Linden does have a reasonable setup on the car. Smooth enough on the steering so far. We did see him fighting a little bit with the wheel through the slow section, or the slow parts of the final sector, but not enough to cause any troubles. Good usage of track there through the first couple of corners, using all of the track available. Going through, but very commanding lead for Nick Vargas after the pit stop round. Obviously it's not over until it's over, but very, very big lead. Mary and Scheckermann. That damage repair for Luca Mary might have cost him a little bit of, well, did cost him some time, but right on it, trying to get up to Scheckermann and take 8th position in the race. Flying through the first couple of corners. It looks like these cars are on rails when they go through there. Turn 3 not that close between Mary and Scheckermann. At least not close enough for Mary to go for any moves as of yet. They are very close, less than half a second between them, but again, it's so close on this track to really get the moves done. The slow speed corners, you don't carry that much speed when you get to them. It's only really the Emperor corner where you have that big braking zone from very high speeds and down to a very slow speed corner. But it is so tight getting through there that you almost have to be alongside before you get on the brakes to have a legit chance of overtaking without pushing your opponent driver out of track. And that might be why we see the drivers being very lenient with trying to overtake into the Emperor corner, at least so far in the race. But when we come down to crunch time, then it might be different. De Moyne not gaining on Van der Linden either in the front, and Van der Linden not gaining on Vargas as well, so it is a little bit of a stalemate up there. But that Murray really trying to get the run out of the penultimate corner. He does know that that's where he needs to get the good run to get a good shot of overtaking into T1, but just a little bit wide there and catching the sausage, losing him some time. And again, he's just that little bit. He just need about 2, maybe 3 tenths. Then he would be within the an area where he could potentially throw the anchor. Could Marian Scheckermann, but not really from that distance. He's just a little bit too far behind. At this point, I do think that Scheckermann he will not be looking in the rearview mirror as much as he'll be monitoring the relatives, as Mary is not at a point where he can really threaten for position, but he's definitely keeping a little bit of an eye on that relative when he's driving. But when you don't have to focus on the mirror, then you can really keep focus on just hitting the lines. Because the relative you can check anytime where the mirror is most interesting when you come into the braking zones and just before the corner, so you know where your opponent driver is. But you can see it gets down to less than a meter, just about a meter between them through the Emperor corner. But again, that's the Constantine effect when you go from that high speeds, about 260 or maybe 250 into to the corner, and then you drop down to what, like 40 or something through kilometers. We're talking about, not miles for those foreign people out there. Through the Emperor corner, you really go slow after braking there. Most cars will be in first gear also just to get the rotation. This time Scheckermann feels the need to try and break the toe. They do run out into the rubber, get some pickup on the tires before the braking zone in turn 1, but again, not close enough. But they are going with a little bit too much speed through turn 2, I would say. Personally, I would go for a little bit less speed through turn 2 to get the better run through 3. But they are at that maximum point of the car, so they're really just trying to use all of the track possible. And Schickerman knows if he slacks off at any point, then he does have a McLaren right next to him. Rick De Moyne have caught up to Van der Linden in the battle for second that we have running on the bottom screen as they go through the slow section. Bit of a slide there from Van der Linden, but not enough to compromise his exit of the penultimate corner. But De Moyne close enough at least to take advantage of the slipstream and drive forward into turn 1. But as that is going on, we have the battle into the Emperor corner as well. But it is the bottom picture I'm looking at the minute. De Moyne on the outside of Van der Linden, and the outside becomes the inside, and the move is done. De Moyne up into second position, but Van der Linden is still there on the inside through 3. Can Van der Linden hang on to this? He is trying to. Does look like that he does have to run into 4. Side by side still. De Moyne, Van der Linden. Who will be Van der Linden on the inside? Slight argy-bargy there, but Van der Linden goes through and defends position. As Schickerman gets a drive-through while we were focusing on these two. But De Moyne still in third as Van der Linden manages to defend it. Drive-through for Schickerman. He does have 3 laps to get that cleared, but unfortunate for Schickerman's chances in the race. And for the battle between himself and Mary. Mary might be pleased as he gets an opportunity as Schickerman just pulls out the way there. Looks to be a retirement from Schickerman. Unfortunate for him. 11 cars left running in the race. So a top 10 for every driver but 1 out on track. But that means we can have full focus on the Rick De Moyne versus Patrick Van der Linden battle for second. As this is literally water on the watermill for Nick Vargas out in the lead. As these two will be very focused on each other, holding each other up a little bit so Vargas can increase that. This time, different strategy for De Moyne coming onto the final straight. Chooses a different line, trying to get that little bit of extra speed. Maybe it's enough. He is already closing in on Van der Linden, but was it a little bit too little, too late? Looks like it through turn 1 we go. Van der Linden still in the lead. There's 2 cars that are notoriously tricky to drive. The Honda and the Audi. But that is why this race in particular is so great, when we see these lesser chosen cars and we see them going toe to toe against each other, especially for podium positions. Battle of the Dodges, as I believe it would be a triple Dodge podium if this holds to the end. Van der Linden a little bit late on the brakes there, goes slightly wide, or at least didn't hit the apex, but De Moyne not close enough to go for the move. Chasing in behind. Up the hill into Chris's corner we go. Look how close they are. Risky to be this close through a corner where the dirt is really intense. You can really feel it, but De Moyne getting a good run this time into the Emperor corner. Shows himself a lot, but backs out of it again. But tries to get it set up for the second part of the Emperor corner. Van der Linden goes wide there, leaving the room for each other. Very good racing between the two of them, as De Moyne have closed it very much. So a little bit of a wiggle there from Van der Linden, and a little bit of more of a wiggle there from Van der Linden. What happened to Van der Linden there? That seemed a little bit strange. But fact is, Rick De Moyne up into second position. Comes across, or at least through the penultimate corner now, and the timing boards will update as he crosses the line. Van der Linden drops to at least third, maybe even further down as we await Vianello at least past him, and Caesar as well. Dropping to fifth does Van der Linden after that. But still in the race, and with a good chance of catching up a few positions still in this one. Just a 2.4 behind Caesar. Maybe that will increase a little bit by the next split, but we'll have to wait and see, as Caesar is not that far behind Vianello either. So that is potentially a battle brewing a little bit in the background. So De Moyne took possession. Looked like that the Audi just got a little bit too loose there. And maybe a bit of a tank slapper as well. that got him that far off course. But let's see, on board here, there it got a little bit loose, and then he just brakes and turns at the same time. I think that's what caught him out. But I just don't think he could get it turned that well with steering on the while braking. Wonder if there was a locked tire involved as well. Didn't see any smoke though, but that seemed so strange and very unfortunate. But that is a bit of an Audi thing. And that can happen when you choose that car. Of course, can happen in the Honda as well, as they are very similar in regards to the style you have to drive, even though they are very different when you get behind them and actually manhandle them. The driving style needed though to get good pace out of them are somewhat the same. Caesar here, Sean Caesar with Vianello up ahead, and currently it's only now 2 Dutch people on the podium, and then the Italian Vianello of SRT. Could be a strong result for the SRT driver getting that podium here at Circuit de Catalunya, but he will have to hold on for 13 minutes still, getting chased by Sean Caesar from behind in the 240 McLaren. Definitely, we know he's called Caesar, but we choose to Caesar is a little bit better for broadcasting wise. But still, in that phase, the gap is not really moving between them, but that's the most frustrating part when you are giving chase. But again, it's the mental game for both of the drivers. Of course, Vianello can have full focus on it, just driving where for Sean Caesar he can literally see Vianello just being the same distance all the time. So he might be pushing it, and at some point one of them is going to push it a little bit too much and the gap will change. But then, but yeah, that's the game between them. It's cat and mouse for third. Who can go without making any mistakes? Looks like the gap opened up a little bit there through the final sector, even though it looked very stable for Caesar. Let's see when they come across the line. We have another timing on them. That's Vianello and that's Caesar. No, it actually came down a bit, the gap between them, but not by a lot as they head down the long start-finish straight. Into turn 1 we go once again. And through the long free is such a challenging corner, because you want to go on the throttle as early as possible, but you also don't want your car to wash out wide. I don't think it's that they don't have that much tire wear in this race as they had the mandatory stop, that will become an issue. But when you're doing longer races and you have very worn tires, you can really feel how the car doesn't want to grip through free anymore, and the car starts to wash more and more out of the track when you're driving on understeers out, we should say. Feel it rolling on top of the tires. Racing still going strongly. Vianello into the braking zone of the Emperor's Corner, or Emperor Corner. Still just seeing the gap not changing that much. I think the Ferrari, if I was in the situation of choosing a car to be in this particular situation, normally I would prefer driving the McLaren, but when it comes down to being under pressure, I think the Ferrari is a bit nicer to drive, a bit more stable than the McLaren, and slightly more forgiving to drive. Across the line, about on the 10-minute mark exactly. Do you remember when the clock hits 0? The race is not exactly over yet. Then a race leader will still have to finish his lap, and then the checkered flag will come out. Race leader, of course, first, and then all the drivers after when they come across the finish line. For those who are not aware, then the yellow marker next to Nick Varga's name means that he has the fastest lap of the race. And the red next to Vianello means that he is the car that we are following at the minute. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer here on the the SSRI YouTube channel, then put them in the YouTube chat and we'll try and answer them as soon as we see them. If we possibly can, of course. We can't answer your big life problems, but we could try if you had any out there. On the run up to Chris's corner, again, you really don't get the a proper look at how steep that actually is. Rule of thumb is if you can see the elevation when you're on board with cars, then it's really steep out there on track. And when you hit the top of that corner, the weight change of the car as you crest it while you are turning, that's sort of that's a tricky thing if your car is set up too aggressive to handle. But look at that! Actually, looks like that Caesar is very quick there through the final sector. From the Emperor corner up to the finish line, Caesar looks to have a little bit of an advantage over Vianello. But Vianello seems to have the upper hand for the rest of the track ish. Gap gone down to just about half a second, so the slipstream is really helping Sean Caesar now. Coming into the to T1, both cars taking the curb. Caesar a little bit too aggressive into the corner. Maybe it was perfect though, but both using a lot of that that exit of turn 2. Caesar early on the throttle through 3, closing a little bit, not close enough to go for it though into 4. We get a good look here how the corner sort of opens up in the sharpness through 4 there from the start to the end of the corner. Into 5 and the downhill section, you can see how it sort of flattens out as we come down here, and then we go up the hill up to Chris's corner. Just see how sharp or how steep it gets there. Into the corner we go. A little bit of a double braking for both of the cars, not getting it perfect initially. But do remember, even though Sean Caesar have the advantage of the slipstream, he also have the disadvantage of the dirty air when they're going through those high downforce corners. Especially those medium speed corners where you're just on the limits of the grip of the cars. Then you really feel the dirty air. Also under braking, of course, and that's because you don't have the same wind on your wings and all of your aero parts. No wind, or the car it sort of makes a hole in the wind that gives you less wind resistance behind, which is also why it is a speed advantage being in the slipstream. Yeah, I just went on a little bit of a ramble there. Not the best of explanations, but hey ho, it is what it is. You just have to deal with it out there. Caesar there going a little bit deep, but it actually looks like that even though he's going deep, he's gaining time on Vianello through that those corners. Maybe Vianello is just braking a little bit too early for turn 1, but the gap have opened up a tiny bit again. This is by far the closest on-track battle at the minute, which is why we have so much focus on it. The rest is sort of at a stalemate point where the most of the drivers have drawn their swords or put them back in the holder. The sword holder, yes, good word. The sword holder. But this is where it's at. Both drivers must feel the pressure. Definitely Vianello, as he knows that Sean Caesar have closed up this much. Can see how he doesn't make all of the apexes anymore, and that might be because he's focusing on the rearview mirror. Caesar doesn't hit this apex though, but not the most costly one to hit if you can just get the car rotated in time. Bit of an oversteer moment there, as we can really see that they're both pushing to the limits and a tiny bit beyond, but not that far over yet. With 5 minutes to go of this race. Battle for the final podium spot and a good points haul in the championship. We'll get back to you with the championship scores for the next race. Hopefully we'll remember to check up before the race and keep updated on it. But Sean Caesar this time still not quite to get it done. Not quite there to get done, but look how close. If you can get the turning through turn 3, but that little bit of an oversteer moment there might have cost him the opportunity into 4. But it looks very good on the throttle, the McLaren. Row 4 we go. Just a 10th more and we get into the code brown situation for Vianello. He still doesn't really have to defend the position as per se, but he does have to be wary about having Caesar behind, as Caesar are just about the edges of the range where he could throw the anchor into the Emperor corner. If he gets the run. Didn't look too much of an advantageous run there, so not close enough to do it this time out. And the thing is, being behind into that particular corner are that you have to get a little bit earlier on the brakes, because even though that you have 2 or 3 car lengths behind you or between you before the braking zone, once you get to the apex, that might have closed down to absolutely none due to the decrease in speed. Close together now, and Caesar does get the car lined up for a better run. Looks like he's actually already gaining at this point down the start-finish straight. If he got through that final corner without lifting, he could potentially have the chance into turn 1, at least try to get it set up for later on. He is coming, he could potentially go for it. Stays tucked behind, shows himself a little bit, forcing Vianello to turn in a little bit earlier than he would have liked there. So it could be on into turn 4, through 3 we go. From above, let's see coming out, but same line, same speed. Is it enough though? Not quite this time. 2 minutes to go and 20 seconds. So this lap and 1 more it will likely only be, as the race leader is now cresting Chris's corner. It is getting to the point, it's now or never for Caesar, as they're coming down to the bottom of the hill leading up to Chris's corner. Losing it there a little bit on the entry to the corner, but potentially Vianello could make the mistake now. Then he is at the distance where he could take advantage of something, but he will have to close the gap, and Vianello will know at this point there's just 1 more lap. And about 2 good opportunities to go now for Caesar to get it done. Vargas comes around the final corner for the second to last time as he starts his final lap. Will keep him running in the bottom right hand side of the screen. As long as this battle is as close as it is, we'll keep maximum focus on that. Vargas on the final lap. Through the final corner for the penultimate time for these 2 mighty gladiators. Who will be? It does look like Vianello have gotten himself the gap that was needed to be a little bit more safe here in the final lap, but anything could happen. This is a time where you don't have to overthink it, or if you start to overthink it, that's when you start to make the mistakes that you really don't want to. Caesar will be hoping Vianello will be making them, but Vianello will keep his focus and try not to. But that's the thing, that as soon as you start driving a little bit more safely, that's often when drivers start making mistakes. We have all tried that, I think, just coming into corners a little bit slower than you're used to, and turning in, and all of a sudden you hit the apex way too early and then lose a bunch more time on the exit. At least I have, but I'm also not that skilled driver, so that might be the reasoning for it. Up the hill we go into Chris's corner for the last time for these guys. Around we go. But yeah, not quite there. He did give it a very, very good run, Caesar, to get that podium position. It's of course not over yet. A back marker as well that they will have to negotiate here in the final couple of corners. He just wisely gets out of the way. Doesn't want to be a decisive factor in this battle for the final podium spot. Oh, if Caesar didn't make that slight spin that he could potentially have gone for into this corner. Will he try for it? No. Not quite. Vargas have crossed the line and finished the race. Des Moines in second. And it looks like it will be Vianello who comes over to claim 3rd place. very, very good battle between the two of them. Sean Caesar in fourth. Patrick van der Linden in the Audi managed to get back up into fifth after the weird Audi spin. Nicola Calvaletto in the other SRT car. Good points all for SRT with a third and a sixth place for those two. Across the line, he will go to finish sixth, and Sander Vale in seventh. So Mode 11 in first and seventh. Luca Mari in the 21. McLaren comes across to take the flag in seventh. Kyalami will be for 8th position, and then only Lucian remain on the track as Crossland already finished the race. No, as Crossland already finished the race. Lucian will be the final driver to take the checkered flag. But a good result. He did get involved early on in a little bit of an incident. Chose to come into the pits early and managed to climb back up ahead of Crossland. Almost going way too wide there in the penultimate corner. But coming home across the line. And what a race we had. What a race we had this evening, this Sunday evening of racing. Just giving the drivers a few moments to see if they're coming in for interviews, but haven't seen anyone being very hyped on that on the Sunday races. Big congrats to race winner Nick Vargas, who have had a good week of racing himself. P2 for Rick Des Moines, and then third for why did I already forget? Why did I already forget the SRT driver? Vianello it was. Of course it was. Why am I so far off today? Strong racing all around. And let's have a look at a few of the highlights. Race start. Van der Linden early on getting a very, very good start, applying the pressure on Nick Vargas, but not getting it quite through the first couple of corners, and Vargas got away on that second. And that, I think, was a very decisive moment in the race for Vargas. If he would have to overtake Van Linden, he could potentially have lost the time that he got the advantage of coming out of the pit. So a great start for that. Also the big gaggle of cars further back made for a pretty good and intense show. As we are still rating next time out Kyalami for a fuel only race. Well, you can take tires if you want to in the pits, but a mandatory fuel stop at Kyalami. Also something to look forward to, because we do know quite a few of the cars can go the distance on the tires. And I think some of the cars actually could have gone the full distance on one tank of fuel with a tiny bit of fuel saving, but it doesn't look like it. Oh, well, we'll have to wait and see what will happen for that one. Yes, we are the Teemo commentary team. We're not that expensive to hire. If you have other leagues that you want a good crew for, would be lovely though. At least we didn't have Prixley in this race. I'm just telling you, but doesn't look like any of the drivers will tune in for interviews. So only one thing left to say. Apart from see you next time out, of course. I've been Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras, Grandpa Chris Hill, as always. We will see you next time out when we go racing at Kyalami, and until then, well, just be well.